is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That was something that we don't play very often here. That was something from a session that was called the Extreme Sessions back in 2000 and something, a long, long time ago. That was Slave to the System with their hit, so to speak, called Stigmata. And on the line right now, we have the vocalist of that band, and he was also in Black Star Riders, and he's also been in Brother Kane, and he was also in John Waite, and this guy's a major talent, but he's stepping away from being in bands, I guess, at least for the minute, to concentrate on some solo work. Of course, I'm talking about Damon Johnson. Damon, how are you, man?
I'm fantastic, Chris. Yeah, wow. When you read off all those names like that, my immediate thought is like, damn, I've been in too many bands.
Well, Damon, I got to tell you, man, right off the start, you know, for music nerds like myself that talk about music and bands and musicians all the time, you are one of those names that comes up often because you're one of those guys, and I'll tell you what I've always said, and you can tell me that I'm wrong or whatever, but I've always said that you're one of those guys where your talent has kind of outweighed the notoriety that you've gained from it. Because everybody that is a music nerd like myself that really digs deep into bands understands that you're a tremendous writer, you're a tremendous player, you're a tremendous singer. You know, everything that you've done professionally as a musician, you've been extremely solid at. But yet you've never been in that whatever project that has landed you that big, giant success to match that talent. Is that fair?
That's fair. That's fair. And, you know, I believe, Chris, the record will show that I've been so committed to the concept of a band. You know, I've loved bands my whole life. Sure. Bands are what got me into rock and roll. And I've always been so swept up in that gang mentality, us against the world, you know, 4 or 5 guys in a room, writing songs in a studio, recording songs, traveling, touring, performing. And I think last year, maybe that was really what my common sense brain was saying. It's like, look, Damon, you're just not meant to do it in a band. You just need to be Damon Johnson and take this resume and, you know, be grateful for it and be grateful for the people that know who you are. Take all these things that you've learned, channel them into your own music under your own name, go out there and build that and be grateful and do that. So that's where I'm at, man. That's where you're finding me today on this phone call.
Absolutely.
And, I'm really energized about it, Chris, and you know, just excited to see what the future brings, man. You know, so far it's been nothing but positives with this decision that I've made. So I'm really inspired right now.
Well, it definitely was, and we will definitely talk about the record because I'm really loving the record. But you to make this move, you had to make, you know, what I would assume was a very tough decision because Black Star Riders, clearly a band on the rise, clearly a band that was getting, you know, attention and notoriety, and, you know, you guys put out records that were all, you know, well regarded in the press and with fans. And then you stepped away because you felt like it was time to do, you know, your own thing. I have to imagine that was not an easy decision.
You're correct. It was very difficult because I love those guys so much. I've not been so integrated and fulfilled by being in a band to that degree, really, as I have since Brother Kane. And the proof of that is that we spent 6 years together and made 3 albums together. And that's a long time, man. That's a lot of music. And obviously we accomplished a great deal. Sure. And, you know, we were able to move the needle at a time where it's hard for rock bands to gain recognition. We were able to do that over in the UK and in other parts of Europe. And that band and that experience is very responsible for, I guess, me rediscovering my songwriting, Jones, and kind of getting those chops back into shape. But we were just spending so much time out of the country. We were spending so much time, you know, building something in a place that I don't live, my family doesn't live.
Right.
And that cost just became more than I wanted to bear anymore. And, I've never made a decision to move on from a band based on that, and that was really difficult because, like you said, Chris, the band is on the uprise, and we are growing and are gaining more fans. Not at a clip, not at a fast clip, but it's definitely growing. And, I just felt like it wasn't sustainable for me to stay there, especially sitting on this whole back catalog of stuff that I've been doing,
Sure.
for the last couple of decades. So, I certainly talked to my family about it and, my trusted inner circle, and took a deep breath and went, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger.
Right.
I'm going to step out. I'm going to do Damon Johnson from here on out. And I guess, like I said a few minutes ago, man, so far so good.
Well, if listening to the record Memoirs of an Uprising is any indication, you made a very smart decision. It is not only is it a really, really great record, but it's the kind of record that as a listener I can listen to and say, okay, I can relate this to this experience in my life and this to that experience in my life. And I get the impression that that's because everything on this is very, very close and very personal to you, no?
I think that's a fair assessment, and there's nothing you could say to me to make me feel more gratitude, I guess, or to feel more validated than to talk about the lyrics and the songs themselves, Chris. For all of my list of accomplishments on my resume, I could easily understand why people would think, okay, Damon Johnson's making a solo record. It's going to be a lot of guitar, a lot of solos, And that's not what this is. It's never what I wanted it to be. I've always loved songs. I've always loved songs that speak to the listener. My favorite artists, my favorite songwriters, I always felt like they were writing not for the world, but they were writing about me.
Sure.
And I would find something in that lyric, as you just said, like you relate to. Wow, yeah, I've been through some things, and I feel what Tom Petty's talking about right here. I feel what Joni Mitchell's talking about right here. I feel what Freddie Mercury's talking about right here, whoever.
Sure.
I feel like this is that moment for me. And quite frankly, I really feel like that's the way forward for me from this point on. Kind of, I don't think people are necessarily interested in you singing about some journal about your life. And this is exactly what I went through. But it is the kind of the fun thing about writing songs is maybe you start the idea of the lyric based on something you went through, and then in the second verse you can bring in a new character that had nothing to do with what you experienced, but it makes the song more interesting,
sure,
more impactful.
Sure, definitely. Now the first,
that's what Memoirs is. It really is, Chris.
It's definitely one of those kind of records that it's not. I don't think it's a singles record at all. I don't think. I mean, could there be singles off it? Sure, but I don't. As a music, like I said, as a music dork, I think it's the kind of record that you spend all 48 minutes or however long it is, just you listen to all of it because you don't. It's not a pull-out record, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's not. Yeah, I didn't even really think about that. I know there were certainly 2 or 3 songs that I felt so great about that I would put it up against certainly anything else I've ever put out over the last 25 years. And, we're starting to get reaction from fans as I'm going out with my band and playing. And, there are definitely certain songs on the record that people are talking about straight away, either from hearing the record or seeing the band play live, and they go, wow, that's special. Ironically, we just played in New York City, and my great friend Monty Connor, who's the president of Nuclear Blast Records,
sure,
world-class metal label and the label that Black Star Riders is on, he came to my show, and he got really excited, about a couple of songs that he hadn't necessarily caught when he listened to the record at home.
Right.
But when he saw us play live, he was like, yeah, man, this is some real stuff. So, and I'm just on the tip end of getting that kind of feedback from friends and fans and listeners in general. So, I appreciate what you said, though. It is a record that I feel like a rock music fan can enjoy listening to from front to back in one sitting, if they would give it that chance.
Sure. Now, the first song that you've shared with fans is Shivering, Shivering. Talk a little bit about that song and what went into the decision to put that one out first.
To talk about that, I would have to bring up my collaborator on 95% of the record. He's a longtime friend of mine, Jim Troglin. And Jim and I came up in the Birmingham, Alabama rock and roll scene back in the early 90s, even before Brother Kane got his record deal. Johnny Blade that's his stage name. Mm-hmm. Jim Troglin, Jim Johnny Blade Troglin. I give him a hard time. I'm like, come on, man, you got to pick a name and stick with it. But Jim and I have written a few songs over the years and just kind of kept in touch. Our wives are great friends. It's that kind of a relationship. So sure. I had some concepts that I wanted to write about for this record, and I reached out to him, only him, and I said, here's what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. He immediately got excited, and we started bouncing things back and forth. And I want to say that Shivering, Shivering was in the very first batch of 3 or 4 ideas that we started to develop. And that one felt like a completed idea before anything else did. It just happened really fast. I sent him some lyrics. He sent me like a drum groove with sort of a vocal melody on it, and he finished the lyric and pretty much elevated what I'd sent him originally to a place I could not have anticipated. So that was definitely the moment where I went, okay, this is kind of the foundation for the rest of the album.
Sure. Is there a difference now, now that your name is on the record versus, even Brother Kane, which was basically your band, but, I mean, is there a difference when you're writing now where maybe you take more control, or do you still feel comfortable sharing the control, like you said here, where you took other ideas and made the music better? Because, obviously it does have your stamp on it now.
That's a great question. I think that just comes to the matter of trust. Mm-hmm. I trust Jim implicitly, and that's vice versa. And, he's not coming to it with any expectations or selfish investment, I guess, for lack of a better description. Mm-hmm. He knows that I'm the artist. He knows that I ultimately kind of have the vision for the final, version of the song. And I think it was fun for him to send me a rough idea and just wait and see what I did to it. Cause I made it a point to make rough demos of everything. So some of my most enjoyable moments of this experience creating this album was sending Jim a demo and then getting his reaction. And he'd be like, wow, I would have never seen it going here. This is great. Or this reminds me of Bowie, or this reminds me of, I don't know, whoever he would reference. And that's fun, man. It just really kept us both in it. But he was all along, he not only encouraged me, Chris, he felt this confidence in me. He's like, man, I've never seen you so focused ever.
Right.
Not that you've always worked hard. You've always put in your best effort. He said, but there's a clarity in the things you're sending me, clarity in the things that you're, talking about as far as taking this album across the finish line, getting it recorded, getting it mixed, all of that. Mm-hmm. So he deserves so much credit for these songs, and I'm really proud of him, and he's super talented. I'm certainly grateful for that friendship.
Sure. Now the one song that jumps out at you to just look at the title and you listen and you're going, what the hell? Dallas Could Have Been a Beatdown. What is going on there?
All praise and glory goes to Jim Troglin. Another example where I sent him kind of some freestyle writing. I remember I had done it on an airplane, probably coming back from London and some Black Star Riders days.
Right.
and had plenty of time to be creative. And I sent it to him, and it was probably a week or so later He's like, hey, man, I got something for those lyrics. And the song is called Dallas Could Have Been a Beatdown. And I was in love.
Right.
Like I just said to him, I says, well, no matter what, that's the title. Whatever happens to the rest of the lyrics, if there's changes or augmentations, that's the title. You can't talk me out of it. Like, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. So I'm getting that reaction, no surprise, Chris, from everybody.
Sure.
I've done several interviews in the last couple of weeks, and someone came to me last night, actually, after the show in New York, and they went, Dallas Could Have Been a Beatdown. Who says that? Like, almost like, what's wrong with you, man? You've got some problems in your life, and thankfully you're sorting them out in front of us in this great record you've made. That's pretty exciting to feel that way.
It's music. Yeah, it's musical
it's a good
therapy,
song, man. And yeah, man. And I brought a lot of bombast to that. Big fat groove from my rhythm section, a big riff. If there are any gunslinger guitar solo moments on this record, it's definitely one in Dallas for sure. I love that song. I love playing it with the band. I can't imagine doing any performance this year that we won't play that one. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Now, Damon, you've obviously been in bands and you've had your own bands, and now you're doing your solo thing. As a musician and as a professional working full-time musician, where is that line for you between being creative and being employed? Because, obviously there's times that you gotta make money, and then there's times that you don't care about the money. You just wanna really exercise that creative musing. Where is that line for you?
Another great question, Chris. Excellent question. And I'm comfortable being very candid with you. That was another difficult part of the decision to step out of Black Star Riders.
Okay.
I had just invested 6 years, and we were growing it. And everybody was able to come home with a little bit of money and feed their families and pay their bills. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't just come out of thin air. That took work and investment and time. So you can imagine a little bit of, there's no other word, anxiety of, okay, I'm just going to leave this, and I'm going to maybe not start on the bottom rung of the ladder, but it's no higher up than the second rung.
Right.
So, we got to figure out a way to pay the bills and keep the lights on. And I guess it did help me that I just looked at the fact that I've been a professional musician for 30 years now, over 30 years, not long after I was out of junior college. And I just feel like that stuff always kind of takes care of itself. It sort of works itself out. And I know that sounds maybe a little too cosmic or a little too, what are you talking about? Money doesn't work itself out. You have to go find it and make it and earn it and bring it home. And so I think once I got over the hump of, the costs related to making the album and getting a couple of people on board as a team to help me promote it, I was able to exhale a little and go, okay, I'm starting to see how, if we can get through this first quarter of 2019, I think we're going to be all right. That's how I feel about it. But again, that's a great question, and there's no doubt that was a big part of the consideration, and certainly the things that my wife and I talked about when I was getting ready to make this move.
Sure. Now, with that said, do you go into the release of the record with a financial expectation, or do you just kind of, because it's so unknown, do you just kind of put it out and do your promotion and do your work and do your shows and see what happens type of a move?
I think the short answer is yes.
Okay.
You do just put it out. I'm not thinking at all financially. I have no expectations at all, other than I do expect this album to be the vehicle that leads to all kinds of opportunities, performance opportunities, streaming opportunities. I made a great product. The vinyl looks amazing. The CD packaging looks amazing. So, we're getting ready to order second pressings of everything. And, the thing really isn't out officially. I did a Pledge Music campaign,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a lot of those fans that, ordered it in advance. But just a handful of dates we've done so far, Chris. I mean, the stuff is flying off the merch table, so that's a good feeling. It definitely helps my family exhale a little bit and go, okay, well, maybe we are going to be all right.
Well, I know I had some friends that were at the New York shows, and I know because they had pictures on Facebook of the album on a bed or something when they got home. So I know you're selling product, which is good, and I certainly know that the reviews of the few shows that you've played have been very good so far. So that's definitely encouraging.
It sure is, man. And we're just all we care about are the people that like it. Mm-hmm. We just care about the people that like the music and that want to come and see us and talk to us after the show, and are as excited about it enough to share it with their friends. And in this world we live in now of social media, wow, man, it's so easy to find detractors and pessimism and whatever, man. I'm numb to that. It's like my daughter says, stop talking. I feel like I don't even hear it. So, just got a great, man, my band is so good, Chris. I'm so proud of this band. It's humbling that there are players of this caliber right here in my hometown of the last 6 years of Nashville, would invest their time and their talents into playing with me, because they're all world class. And, we're having a blast, man. The set list is comprised of lots of stuff from the new record, and then plenty of songs from my past. Brother Kane. We played a couple of Thin Lizzy songs last night. We've got an Alice Cooper medley that lasts about 11 minutes that has 7 or 8 songs in it. Man, it just burns the house down every time we play it. So we're having a great time.
No doubt, man. Well, Damon, let me ask you one that has nothing to do with the record, but it just comes up all the time, and you were involved in it, although it's like this thing that never goes away. That third Damn Yankees record. It I think it's been covered to death, but then I still hear, Eddie Trunk, 2 weeks ago saying that, he had heard a new rumor about it. So I just wanted for you, and I've asked Jack Blades this too, and he kind of had an answer. This record's never going to see the light of day, right? It's already kind of been parsed out and remixed by whoever wrote the songs, and the good songs have been used to where it's not going to come. Is that fair?
Kind of has been, man. I think that is fair. The Damn Yankees is Jack and Ted and Tommy's band.
Right.
They built that. It's their band. And, there was this one moment where there maybe would have been another album. I was certainly involved in it, with everyone's blessing, the record company, even Tommy. And, I kind of stepped in to pseudo take his place. And, it's kind of a weird story. And at the end of it, when we got the record mixed and back, and Tommy was involved, and we were all, it was almost like the 5 of us, including Michael Carlone. It just felt like it didn't have that one song.
Okay.
That undeniable knock it out of the park, great song that you have to have, especially if you're a classic rock band like that, at a time when, if you were going to get any traction, any attention, you had to really crush it with an undeniable hit. Sure. And I just don't think the record had that song. And their other albums did, and it's not easy to write a hit. And it's certainly not easier for a bunch of guys in their 40s and 50s in the year 2000,
right?
To write a hit and go out there and do what? Compete with Limp Bizkit and compete with Korn,
right? And
compete with Sheryl Crow and compete with, whoever else was having their moment then. That was a tall order. But the thing I'm most proud of is that I got to be a part of it. It was very flattering that they would reach out to me along with their A&R man, John Kolodner,
sure,
who I certainly have a lot of respect for. And I don't know, man. Maybe it was a blessing for me in disguise.
Maybe.
All those, you know what I mean? Like all those guys are 10, 12 years older than me. They're sort of like they were all my uncles. They were all more like my uncles rather than my big brothers.
Right.
So, yeah, man. But great to write songs with them, great to record.
Sure.
And we had a lot of good times. And I look back on that with nothing but good memories.
Sure.
It was a lot of fun.
And it might be a blessing for you as well, because if it wasn't as well received as the first two, everybody would have blamed you as being the difference, right?
And why not? And why not?
Yep.
You know what? I probably would have blamed myself. Oh, man, it's all my fault that I've destroyed the damn Yankees. That's a tough one to hang on your mantle at home right there. That would be hard.
No doubt, man. Well, Damon, you talked about your live band, which I'm assuming is together because you're going to be doing shows to promote. So talk a little bit about what your plans are for getting out around the country and playing some shows.
Yeah, right now there's no big grand tour statement. Hey, here's the big 3 months North American tour from Damon Johnson. We're going to be sort of perpetually playing, Chris. I love nothing more than being a weekend warrior,
Sure.
Being here with my family, taking the kids to school and going to hockey practice and dance recitals and all that, and then going out on the weekend and playing some rock and roll. So the dates are starting to build. I've got a handful of dates coming up in May. I know there's a big show I'm doing with the Winery Dogs here in Nashville, a couple festival things coming in.
Cool.
I'm kind of drawing a big circle around my home area here in the Southeast, down in the Birmingham and Atlanta and Memphis and Chattanooga, places that I've really been playing my whole life. I want to get back to those towns because I've kind of neglected them over the last, 6 or 8 years, and just remind people who Damon Johnson is and what he sounds like and what his resume has yielded after all these years, and see what we can do.
No doubt, man. Well, people that need to be reminded, they need to pick up Memoirs of an Uprising. When is it out?
March the 8th.
Okay.
This single debuted on all the digital sites last Friday, Chris, Shivering. So you can pre-order it on iTunes. You can get that song immediately. And, the full thing will be out March the 8th. And I couldn't be more proud of it. And I promise you, anybody that digs rock music is going to like some stuff on this record. Guaranteed.
Absolutely. Well, Damon, as a tradition on the show, we always let the artist pick a closing track from the new record. Maybe tell us a quick story about it. So what would you like us to wrap this one up with?
I would love to wrap this one up with a song called Making Peace with This Wicked Beast.
All right. And why
Another Johnny Blade title. I think that's track number 9. I don't know that I've ever laughed more, borderline just jumping on the console and dancing when we tracked this song. We had so much fun, and there's a funk element to it, but there's a big fat, just almost like AC/DC groove component to it, and man, I just think it's what a great thing to be able to say that you just feel joy when you play your own songs. And I don't know. I guess that song kind of let me know once and for all, like, okay, you're at a place that you've never been before. Totally confident, kind of fearless to do whatever you want to say and do musically, lyrically, and I think you'll dig this song.
All right, well, let's check it out right now. It is Damon Johnson right here on your Classic Metal Show.